Hey everyone out there in YouTube land, Dan here from GeekCast Radio, doing another trip to the long box where I go to my collection, pick out a book that either impacted my fandom in some way as being a comic book fan, or a book maybe that I haven't read in a long time, or maybe a book I'm reading for the first time, and giving my thoughts and opinions, and perhaps if there's any story to go along with it. And today I'm actually going to be talking about Cable and Deadpool, the first volume. As you can see, this will be an actual graphic novel. And when my first trip to the long box, I talked about the first comic I ever read, and as many, I was a big X-Men fan. You can check that out. As I talked about X-Men 11, was the very first comic I read, and like a lot of people, I was with comics for a long time. I followed them, but I kind of left as time went on. I didn't really have a comic book store near me. I got involved in other things, so I stepped away for quite some time until really early 2000s when my friend bought me this Cable and Deadpool trade paperback for my birthday one year. I believe it was around 2004-ish, when this first came out. And I was like, he knew that two of my favorite characters are Cable and Deadpool. And as many 90s fans are or were at the time, I was a fan of Deadpool before he became the Merc with a mouth, when he was just really this generic kind of assassin type of character. And Cable, he was actually the first character that I ever got into from the X-Men, or really from Marvel or comic books in general. I was big in the G.I. Joe for much of my youth, and collected a lot of the toys, watched the cartoon, and then one day when we were at the store, I saw some X-Men toys, and specifically the one for Cable stood out. And it stood out because he looked like a bigger, faster, cooler G.I. Joe. He kind of looked like Terminator, and Terminator 2 was out around the time, and I was a big fan of that. I'm like, wow, that looks like everything I wanted to be. He had a huge gun, and I was fascinated with guns for some reason. So he became one of my favorite characters, and when he eventually showed up in the cartoon, I was overjoyed. Deadpool, I just liked for similar reasons. I had a toy of him as well, and I liked him in the comics. I thought he was really cool because he had swords. He looked like a ninja, and then eventually, when he became and morphed into, the Merc with a mouth and became more comedic. And so I picked this up, and I went into it, like, again, not reading comics for 7 years. Who knows? I couldn't even tell you how long it was. And I was just amazed, first and foremost, just how different they looked. Like, looking at this comic, and I was used, like, just the coloring and everything like that was so different for me, because I was watching, this is when we had more digital coloring, and it looked a lot better than I remembered. I'm like, wow, this is a lot different. There's more the look of it's sharper, and looks like there's like computer enhanced at times, like the things around Cable. I was like, wow, I was kind of just blown away with like the way comics have evolved on an art standpoint. I didn't really see anything like that before in some time. It had the Deadpool that I knew and loved. Cable was a little bit different, as you can see here, where this opens up, and Cable is fully powered. He is a Cable that is who he was kind of melded to be. He has telekinesis. He can control a lot of things. He could do cool things like this. He's basically Neo from the Matrix. And again, it was like, wow, that reminds me of that scene from the Matrix, and I was really into the Matrix. I'm really liking what they're doing with Cable in this. This is really cool. Deadpool is Deadpool, and they make a really good combination, because Cable, such a serious character, he really has no humor whatsoever. Kind of one note. Even as a fan of Cable, he's a very one note character. There's not much to him. In some instances, his history, his backstory is convoluted as it gets. Being the son of Jean Grey, well, not really Jean Grey's clone, and Cyclops, who's sent to the future, comes back to the past to try to save it. So it's like trying to explain that to the layman. I could see why in the movie they didn't even bother, in Deadpool 2, why they didn't bother getting into his history, if they ever will. There's like, this is a dude from the future has a metal arm. That's all you need to know. He's like a cyborg, basically. So I remember reading this. I'm like, holy crap, look at how much comics have changed. And I was just really into it. And then at the end of this volume, and to spoil it, I guess, the decade-old comic, you see the X-Men show up. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on there? Cyclops, I know. Beast, that's not the Beast I know and love. And Emma Frost, I thought was a villain. I was not really up on, I didn't renew X-Men or anything like that, so I wasn't aware of all the changes that happened. I didn't know Jean Grey was dead. I assumed she was, because it's kind of the thing she does. But I read it and I finished it, and It's like, wow, this is quite amazing. When I picked it up, I'm like, oh, that's right, Rob Liefeld. So that's what it's going to look like in the pages. But he just did the covers for them. It was much, a lot better. The art was actually done by Mark Brooks and Patrick Zirkler, who I don't even know how much they work anymore. And Fabian Nienza was the person who wrote it. He wrote all 50 issues. read this first volume, I was like, wow, I really want more. It's ending at a good spot. I want to keep going. So luckily at that same time, a local comic book store opened just right down. I passed it every day on the way to school. I was at college at this time and went in and started my first pull box and started with Cable and Deadpool, getting that every month, and picked up some of the issues that have already came out at that point. This was the first 6, so I don't have every issue. This is one of the series I want to collect in full. Again, not because it's really worth anything. I don't know if it is, but because it has so much of an impact for me. I collected it, stayed with it until issue 50 when it ended. It was near the end where Cable kind of left the book for a while because he got his own series, and then Deadpool had his own. It was basically whoever in Deadpool. It became like a Deadpool team up book near the end. It was also my first introduction to Scotty Young as an artist because he did a lot of the covers for it during that period of time. But I just really loved this book. It was a comic book that liked being a comic book. The next volume, next series of issues, we see Cable going completely crazy. Surfer shows up. It was just a lot of fun. It was cool seeing Cable kind of become who everyone thought he was. So it was just a lot of fun. I don't, and it still ranks up there as one of my favorite series. On a sentimental level, on the impact it had me as a fan. Is it like the best comic ever written? No, it's pretty straightforward. It's got a lot of good humor. Even the introduction to like the first page to Deadpool is like still one of my favorites when it's just him watching TV. You probably can't see it there, but he's just watching it and they're talking about who the sexiest person in the world is, and it's B. Arthur. This is where Bob, the Hydra agent, shows up. He came out of this series. So I don't. It was just ridiculous, and Deadpool is a character that can grow tiresome if done incorrectly. So having the weight of Cable there, I thought worked well. It was able to. There were, it's a classic buddy comedy, the straight man in the the comedic presence, and I know they're actually having an annual coming out. I think it's in. I want to say August or September. There, David F. Walker is going to be writing it, so I'm going to pick that up. They had another series when the first Deadpool came out. It wasn't as good. It just didn't have the same type of magic as that this did for me, at least. So yeah, it was a huge impact for me. So this led me to get into other series, which I'll talk about as well. It's like you get a little taste of it and then you kind of keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And so the big reason that I'm doing this video today is this series. If I didn't get it, it's a good chance that I would not be reading comics to the level that I am, and or analyzing them or getting back into them, because at that point the movies were starting to come out and I was getting more into it, but it just got me back into the world of actual reading books, which was great. So I'd be curious for everyone out there, do you have a book that got you into comics or comic book that got you back in? A lot of people leave and come back. It's hard to keep current with them. If so, mention in the comments below. I'd be curious to hear that. If you want to listen more to me, I'll be dropping videos more on this channel, GeekCast Radio. Also, check out my podcast, Comic Concierge. That drops on Mondays and Wednesdays. On Mondays, I do a weekly wrap-up of the week that was in comics. On Wednesdays, a deep dive, or Thursdays, I should say, or deep dive into a specific series with some sort of guest star. Recently, spoke with Pod Vader about the Kyle Stark series, Kill Them All. I've had a number of guests on that. We've talked about series like Gotham Central to Royal City, try to do kind of a variety of different books. So, all right, but that's it for me. Remember that comics are for everyone. The key is finding the right one. Until next time, thanks for watching.